Hi everyone, thank you for coming once again to our live. I'm giving it just a few moments to get everything set up. But today we are going to be talking about substance use in youth. Just kind of giving a little background as well as some tools that you can use if you are someone struggling with substance use. That is what we're going to chat about. But again, I'm going to give it just one more minute for us to begin. All right, so as always, my name is Hannah. I'm the Education and Training Coordinator here at Whitman-Walker Health. And as I said, today we are going to be talking about substance use among youth. Some of this may seem like common knowledge to you, but it's important information for us to get out there nonetheless. So with drugs and alcohol, no matter how much or how little you take, there's always an inherent risk if you are using. And so it's important to learn what those risks are and how you can minimize them if you are using, and if you are someone who is using and wants to stop, or if you are someone who is feeling pressured into using but aren't really wanting to do that. We'll also provide you with some resources today so that you can seek out help if you need it. So what are drugs? I know that seems like a silly question, but not everyone knows, because it does cover a larger variety of things than you may think. So a drug is a substance that alters how your mind and body function. The most common types of drugs can include everyday substances that we don't even consider to be harmful, like coffee, because it contains caffeine, and caffeine is in fact an addictive substance. Prescription medication, so for folks at home who maybe your parents keep Tylenol, Advil, cough medicine just kind of on hand, those things are considered drugs. There are some forms of drugs that are legal when you use them for recreational purposes. So things like, and once you are of age, so things like cigarettes and alcohol are of course legal, but also incredibly addictive and can lead to some pretty negative consequences if you are using them either underage or in a manner that can cause your body harm. And there are also illegal forms of drugs, right? So cocaine, ecstasy, marijuana, things like that. And of course, marijuana is kind of that gray area where it is being increasingly legalized in this country, although there are places where it is still considered to be an illegal substance, and you can get into a lot of trouble for having it. And of course, some folks are also using it for medicinal use. So folks with certain illnesses can use medical marijuana to treat some of their symptoms. But of course, that version of marijuana is being monitored by scientists and by doctors to ensure its safety. It is not the kind of marijuana that you would be using recreationally or for fun. So it is important to keep that in mind. And as always, if it is legalized, all forms of drugs, you have to be of age to use them. And the younger you are when you start using them, the more likely you are to experience harmful effects as a result. So if drugs cause so many issues for folks physically and mentally, why do people use them, right? And the answer is different for everyone. Some folks use them to relax or celebrate or feel good. It's just a substance that they can use to have a good time with their friends. For folks who experience anxiety, sometimes people will use different substances to feel more confident, to be able to walk into a room of strangers, say at a party, and feel like they can have fun. They won't be so much in their shell. They want to be able to join in with friends. And there is a big component of peer pressure when it comes to choosing whether or not you're going to use drugs. If there are people around you that are using, it may seem like a really good idea for you to use as well. You want to fit in, and that's understandable. Some people use drugs and alcohol as a means of escape. If they're in an environment that is really stressful or scary for them, they may use it to feel like they can get away from that situation for a bit, even if they're physically still there, or to cope with really difficult emotions. So again, people who experience trauma, mental health concerns like anxiety and depression, drugs sometimes feel like a way to get away from those bad feelings. And some people just use it to experiment. So it's just a new state of being that people are trying to experience. And, regardless of someone's reasons for using drugs, it's still important for us to know, again, the risks of using, so that we can determine if those risks are worth what we're getting out of drugs and alcohol, and to perhaps explore healthier, safer options to still receive these same benefits, to still feel good, to still feel confident, to still deal with really difficult emotions without causing ourselves and those around us harm. So what are the risks of using drugs? So I'm just going to kind of list off some consequences. And of course, not everyone who uses a certain substance will experience any or all of these side effects, but it is always a possibility. So some consequences can include addiction. So addiction is when you are kind of compulsively, almost out of your control, using a substance. Overdose, which is when there's a substance in your system that leads to that can lead to serious illness or death just as a result of using it that one time. Again, can lead to death. There are side effects, and so different side effects can come along with different substances. So for example, if you are someone who smokes, even if it's just like cigarettes, it can lead to, gum disease. You're at incredibly high risk for certain cancers, especially of the mouth, throat, and lungs. It can lead to damage to your teeth. If you are someone who is using alcohol in a way that is dangerous, it can lead to organ damage, brain damage. Again, an increased risk for certain cancers, so you really want to keep that in mind. It can impact relationships, work, or school. It can really put a really big strain on your relationships if you're someone who's using drugs or alcohol. It can increase to issues with your judgment, memory, impulse control. It can lead to legal and financial issues. Of course, legal issues if you are using a substance while underage, whether it's legalized for adults to use or not. You as a youth can be in trouble if you're caught using it. And of course, there are just illegal substances for everyone that you are not supposed to use in any way. And drugs and alcohol are expensive. And so if you are someone who, especially if you are developing an addiction to a substance, you're constantly putting out money to purchase it, it can really put a strain there as well. So if you are someone is considering using drugs or have a concern about your current drug and alcohol use, or someone that is close to you, there are several people that you can go to for help. So there are certain hotlines that you can call if you are experiencing issues with drug and alcohol use, and I'll be sure to share those at the end of this presentation. You can talk to your primary care provider, your doctor, and they can connect you to resources as well. If you are someone who is in school, whether that's middle, high school, or college, you can definitely talk to a counselor or social worker, any behavioral health specialist that you have nearby. They are obligated to provide you with counseling, resources, and support. Oftentimes, those supports can also reach out to your family members as well. If you have family that is experiencing addiction, they can help you as a familial unit, which is great. And you can also go online and find specialized drug and alcohol services. There is so many resources out there that are ready to help you 24/7, many of which are free or at low cost to you. So it's really important to pursue all of your options. So minimizing risk. So I'm not going to sit here and, preach to you about never using drugs or alcohol, because I know that that is not an option for all people, but I do want you to be as safe as possible if you are using or you are around people who are using. And so I'm just going to read a few of those off for you. So the first step is to really educate yourself about the side effects and risks of the drugs and alcohol that you're using. If you're someone who's using injection drugs, you want to make sure that you're not sharing needles because it puts you at increased risk for different bloodborne illnesses. You want to make sure that if you are using, that you're in a safe environment. If you are using with other people, make sure they're people that you trust. If the drugs will put you at risk for overdose, make sure that you have things like Narcan or naloxone ready, so that if you do experience an overdose, that you are at less risk for dying while using. That is really, really important. Excuse me. Understand the things in your life that may trigger you to use a substance. So if you are someone that is compelled to use because of a bad environment or anxiety and depression, maybe before starting to use, you can explore your options for treatment for the issues that you are having before self-medicating with drugs or alcohol. Again, consider the environment you are using the substance in and make it safe. If you are using, make sure you're not using alone, so that if you do have a negative health effect while you're using, then someone is there to immediately help you. Take precautions to limit your use and to avoid an accidental overdose. So really making sure that you're not using too much, that you're the folks that you're getting your drugs and alcohol from can be trusted, that you're testing all of your drugs before using to make sure that they're not laced with anything that can be more harmful to you. Avoid combining more than one substance. Certain substances, when used together, can impact your health more harshly than it would if you were using the substances separately. Learn how it might interact with any medications that you're already taking for similar reasons. Access clean injecting equipment if you're using needles. Again, it's really easy for you to get infections, abscesses, or bloodborne pathogens like HIV and hepatitis C if you are using used needles or needles that have been shared with other people. Consider who's around to support you if anything goes wrong. Again, it's really important as far as keeping yourself safe to not use drugs by yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you need medical assistance, you can call 911. If you are with someone who is using and they are experiencing an overdose, you are able to call 911 on their behalf, and no one will suffer any sort of consequences with the police because of Good Samaritan laws. They do protect everyone because you are trying to save someone's life. Never drive under the influence of a substance. Make sure if you need to go somewhere that you have someone who is sober to take you, and make sure that you're seeking out a doctor on a regular basis just to make sure that you are still okay. Now, a big part of if you are someone who is using, a big part of stopping or preventing yourself from starting using substances is to seek mental health counseling. And so how can that help you? Right? So it can kind of clarify your concerns if, you're dealing with a really difficult situation that's pushing you to use. They can maybe give you tools to cope with that. It can help you explore the impact of substance use in your life, just kind of help put things into perspective. It can give you a better understanding of your motivations for using if you already are using. They can give you tools to minimize the risk of your drug use. It can eventually lead to reduce your substance use if that is something that you're interested in. They can assist you in accessing information and treatment resources, and they can help you weigh the consequences and benefits of using and help you find healthier alternatives. So mental health counselors are never going to judge you. They're not there to get you in trouble. They're solely there to help you, protect you, and give you the help and support that you need. Counseling is a safe place where you can talk about your concerns around drugs and alcohol without any judgment. And again, that is for you, or if you are often around someone who is struggling with substance abuse. All right. So that is really all I have today. It really just is an overview to encourage you to, if you are feeling pressured or compelled to use drugs or alcohol, to consider the risks and to also consider taking steps and finding ways to not use. If you are looking for ways to escape and feel good, try reaching out to a friend or family member that you trust and confiding in them. Seek out new hobbies, sports, exercise, anything that can get your mind off of whatever it is that you are feeling. Seek mental health resources, of course, and just surround yourself with people who are committed to keeping you safe and happy. All right. So that's all we have for today. As always, I'm going to link the information for for free HIV and STI testing. You, of course, have to set up an appointment as always, but it's really easy. All you have to do is call our hotline at 202-797-4439 to set up an appointment, and I will pin that to the top. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. It is pretty wet and dreary out there, so I hope everyone stays warm and stays dry, and we will be back with you all next week with more Instagram Lives. Have a great day, everyone.